Come with me for a little bit and let's contemplate and explore on leadership. How do we lead from within? How do we lead in such a way that we're actually a facilitator versus a dictator? I want to explore one of the greatest leaders of all time, who was one of the most effective servant leaders in all of history, and that's Jesus Christ of Nazareth. I was contemplating this morning as I was reading through the scriptures how Jesus showed up as a leader. One of the most powerful aspects of his leadership was empowerment. He would come into different situations, and many times he was facing situations where people did not agree with him, where he was a salmon swimming upstream against all of the forces coming against him, because he was speaking a new law, a law of freedom, in the midst of a law of restrictions. There are certain habits and behaviors that needed to take place in order to get to that place of fellowship with God. So he was preaching a much different message. It was actually a fulfillment of the message that was being preached at the time. However, because people gravitate and attach themselves to their agenda, to their belief system, so much so that oftentimes they'll delete, distort, and generalize information, even if it's beneficial for them, simply because of their relationship with their belief system. So Jesus came into that scene as a leader, and rather than using a dictator approach, he came in with a humble approach. He walked through the archway of humility and love, which is the archway through which we pass through to achieve that greatness as a leader, to lead from the inside out. One of the aspects of his leadership, which is worth our exploration, is one of questioning. He was masterful at the people that followed him at beginning the conversations with questions. And he would invite people into self-reflection. Rather than judgment, he would invite people into self-reflection. The woman caught in adultery, woman, is there anyone here to condemn you? So he would guide people back to themselves and self-realization. He did the same thing with the woman at the well. He proclaimed what he knew simply as a statement of the fact of the situation. I can see that you have 5 husbands. And he laid it out, obviously in such a way that wasn't defensive, because she continued to be open to learning. She continued to remain rather than become defensive. So what can we learn here from that approach of questioning as a leader that leads from within? Well, one, we can learn the power of effective questioning. Rather than dictating and using force or bullying, pausing and asking an effective question guides people into that place of self-reflection and an opportunity, championing other people into that opportunity to identify and adjust. Hey, is this behavior working for you? How does this behavior align with the person that you're committed to being? How does this particular behavior support your personal goals and objectives and where you want to get to? So asking questions that lead to self-reflection was something that Jesus was masterful at. The other aspect worth exploration this morning is the fact that he empowered his people on teams. He broke, at one point after the disciples had been walking with him and seeing the miracles that he was doing and presenting to the people that followed him. He was curing the sick, causing the lame to walk, the blind to see, the deaf to hear. Then he empowered them with that same ability. Too often what happens with leadership that's driven by ego is that there will be a restriction on shared information for fear that the people will take it and rise above you. So what Jesus was masterful at doing is he actually shared, everything I have is yours. Everything I have, including the ability to heal the sick and cause the blind to see, as was one of the big miracles in the book of Acts with the apostles, that there was a blind man who was able to see. And so he empowered them. He didn't withhold what he knew and learned and what the empowerment that he had from God as his son. He shared and empowered One of the best scenes to depict this is when he sent his disciples out 2 by 2 into nearby towns to continue the healing ministry that he started. They came back from that experience so excited of the miracles that took place. Can you imagine that gathering? Can you believe it? There was a blind man that was made to see, and I helped a man who's been lame since birth walk, and all the excitement was among the team. And Jesus' response to that was, again, temperance, which is another quality of a leader who leads from within, is temperance, not to get caught up in the ego, but to have that self-reflection. Rejoice not that you were able to do these great things, but that your name is written in the book of life. So he was constantly bringing that back, bringing the ego back to the place of the spirit, and giving this and encouraging his followers to give the spirit permission to guide the flesh rather than the ego. So he was masterful at empowering his people. So I encourage you today to reflect on those two aspects of Jesus' leadership. One, that he was able to empower people to work in groups, teams. He did not withhold the wisdom that he had, but rather passed it along to champion his team to do even greater things than these. He wasn't attached to the miracles and the success that he had as a healer in this world and a leader in this world. He was willing to share. And the other aspect is to ask effective questions that guide people back to themselves and their fullest potential. So perhaps this week as a leader, if you're in a leadership position professionally, if you're a leader at home and you're in that position of empowering your children, to be able to use those two aspects of leadership and explore integrating those two aspects into your life as a leader. Lead from within. An incredible ministry that I'm involved with is Lead Like Jesus. I believe the website is leadlikejesus.com. It's either .com or .org. Lead Like Jesus. Google that. It's a very, very powerful ministry out there that's equipping people with tools and techniques to take the characteristic traits that Jesus used to be such an impactful leader in his short life of 32, 33 years on earth. And so I encourage you to explore that, enjoy your gift of life, and I look forward to our next session together.